Welcome to Surviving the Side Hustle, the podcast for high performers who've gone all in, but still feeling a little stuck. I'm your host, Rob Tracy, coach, speaker, and creator of the Prime Performance Process. If you're a solopreneur, small business owner, or just launched your side hustle and you're tired of grinding with no momentum, this is for you. Every week, we bring you guests that have broke the code, generated momentum, and finally got unstuck. And we're diving into their stories, their struggles, and their secrets to generating massive momentum in both their personal and professional lives. We don't do fluff here. We do frameworks, real talk, and share the kind of insights that get you unstuck for good. Welcome, and let's get rolling. But before we dive in, I gotta remind you, if you're overwhelmed, spinning your wheels, or just tired of hustling without the results, it's time for a Prime Performance Strategy session. In this free call, we'll zoom out on your life and business, identify the real reason you're feeling stuck, and build a game plan to help you reclaim your confidence, energy, and gain some clarity so you can get back to doing what you set out to do. Lead, grow, and thrive. This isn't surface level coaching. It's a system built on resilience, intentionality, clarity, and alignment. So head over to survivingthesidehustle.com/free call to grab your spot today. Again, that's survivingthesidehustle.com/free call. Let's get going and help you look good, feel good, and do great things. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. I'm really amped to kind of dive in and have a conversation because today we have Emily Erstad on. She is out in Arizona, and she's an interesting guest to have on. So I'm looking forward to kind of diving in because she is a speech language pathologist. She's the executive director of a hospice and a published author. I'm really excited because she's the regional operations strategist, passionate about bridging the gap between emotional intelligence and leadership to build profitable and passionate healthcare teams. She's been experienced managing the chaotic environments of rehabilitation and hospice, which gave her the experience to master emotional intelligence as a leadership skill. So we're all about leadership. We're all about skills. We're all about communication and connecting. So I'm excited to have you. Welcome to the show, Emily. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'm excited to kind of dive in. So I'll let you kind of take the reins to kick things off, to kind of share a little bit about who yourself, a little bit more than just the intro itself, to kind of share a little bit about, who you are with the audience here.
Yeah, totally. So I'm from the Midwest. I went to school to be a speech language pathologist, and then during the pandemic, went through some life-changing events as we all did, and took a travel job to end up in Billings, Montana. And in that time, that's where I started to blog and really actually just confront a lot of hard truths about myself and really learn who I was as a person. And it was kind of a dramatic move. You know, if you know about people from the Midwest, we tend to stay in the Midwest. And then if we leave, we're like, what in the world are you doing? The Midwest is one of my favorite places to visit, but not somewhere I want to stay, just stays the same all the time. And so moving to Montana was really eye-opening. It's like, wow, there's different types of people and different ways to do life and all that, on top of a pandemic when I feel like we were all already negotiating such a changed life. And so after living in Montana for a bit, I just randomly picked out Tucson, Arizona on a map, showed up, and then, which is the first step, guys, show up. Okay. So showed up, had no clue what I was doing, and just constantly found myself in really great opportunities and decided that I wasn't going to be scared and just take the leap. And so kind of started my management career. And like Rob said earlier, I did outpatient rehab, and then also saw the patients on the side, still do to this day. And then kind of tumbled into hospice, which was definitely not where I saw myself going. And it's been really inspirational. It's been really hard. And it's really taught me a lot about who I am and who I want to be as a leader, and has really sparked an inspiration and a passion for me to connect with others, to be like, what's your story and what's your perspective and what have you learned? Because I always say, like, I love to think I mastered emotional intelligence, but let's be real. As soon as you think you have it figured out, you probably don't. And so I think just maintaining that humility and that posture of learning through your life is just so important. And that the job I'm in now as a regional strategist and getting to work with hospice has really gotten to give me opportunity to learn about myself and my staff and exercise some of the skills I've worked really hard to develop in my 20s. So,
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that information. It's really great to connect with that. And leaving hometown is never gonna like an easy thing to do, but then traveling and just kind of picking somewhere random, that's very courageous
yeah.
and is very um amazing too, because it shows you a lot of resilience and you're really out there doing the hard things, like putting yourself in situations, taking on challenges, accepting opportunities, and working left and right. And working in hospice definitely is not an easy thing too. It's highly emotional, and it just speaks volumes to see how you're able to kind of handle and create and continue to move forward. And I would love to kind of dive into where did the book fall into play amongst this whole
Totally.
story.
Totally. So I started blogging while I was in Montana, and really enjoyed that. And didn't really, it's interesting. I didn't really think I'd ever write a book. I've always been called to connect with people and always felt the need to, I really get inspired by other people's stories. But I'm also a really deep feeler thinker, always have been. My emotions have been way too big for me to handle my whole life. It was kind of a healthy way for me to get my feelings out without completely overwhelming my communication partner with like the 7,000 things I was talking about. So it started as a blog. It was called Leaving Me Speechless up in Montana because get it, speech pathologist, and I
Yeah.
don't stop. Haha. um, and kind of left it at that. Like left Montana, left the blog there. I really had myself a time in Montana. Came to Tucson, and I was like, okay, stopped writing. Just stopped. I don't know why. I just didn't do it anymore. Took a job as an executive director before this one at my first hospice and just really had a spark to write. So I was driving to Tahoe with my husband and I got in the passenger seat, took some Dramamine because I get really car sick, and wrote the book in 5 months. Just powered through it. And I don't know what the heck got into me because I always like writing research papers in grad school. I freaking hated it. But this just felt like something I should do. So no strategy behind it, guys. Which maybe that's good, maybe that's not. I've had to learn the strategy along the way. It's a learned skill. It's not something I typically do. You'll learn I'm just a bull in a china shop. And here I go talking fast. I'll slow down. But so when I wrote the book, it was interesting because it was just live streamed thought, and I kind of went back and read it, and I was like, wait, this is like really cyclical. This is actually making a lot of sense. Maybe I should do something with that. So just self-published it and threw myself out there, and kind of gave it to my employees and some of my coworkers and a bunch of people that, I've connected with here in Arizona. And they're like, you should probably do something about this. And then I didn't. And so I published it last September. And I just thought to myself, I don't know if I was ready to put all my thoughts out there like that. Like I didn't really think about how vulnerable it is to put your live stream of consciousness on a piece of paper on Amazon. And that caused me to pause. And I'm a big person. And like one of the chapters in the book is timing is everything. Right. And so sometimes you can run really, really fast, but the timing's just off. And so I took a break. And one of my good friends, she was like, you put a lot of time into this book. Why don't you invest in it? Like spend time talking about it, And so I did the Instagram thing as many of us do as we talk, and it just wasn't clicking. So here I am podcasting, and it's really inspired me. I've been writing my second book, and I have a third book like in the works, and it's just kind of been a career of passion, which is unlike me because everything else about me is very strategic. So it's kind of cool to get to have both sides. Did that answer the question?
Yeah. And I love that you shared too. You kind of just like dove right in, you figuring it out as you go, as many solopreneurs and early stage entrepreneurs, individuals who are like moving from a hobby into a side hustle kind of thing. It's like, yeah, we don't really know exactly where the business is or how to do it. We just doing something we enjoy, and now we want to start making money with it. So a lot of people just try their best to figure it out as they go. And so I admire the efforts and steps that you're taking to kind of go and put forth. And sounds like you've got a series in your head and you're ready to kind of get this rolling out to the world. So sounds
Yeah.
like you've got a lot of positivity around the book currently, and it's just going to continue to go. So I'm excited to kind of hear a little bit more. So can you dive in? So you said one of the chapters there was about the timing and how timing is pretty much everything. And
Yep.
I love that too because that's pretty much everything. Like you could have a perfect product and you could have a perfect plan for everything, but you might not be the right time for it to launch, or timing could be off slightly, and that's going to affect a lot of things. So where else in life has timing really kind of showed up? Because it seems like timing is like crazy with you because you just kind of jump in and run and switching gears nonstop.
Nonstop. That's yeah, that's a good way to put that. I am nonstop all the time. And it's a blessing and a curse, as most entrepreneurs are, right? And so timing has pretty much been the story of my life. I think I've always like the topic I've been just talking about a lot lately is vulnerability, which is my least favorite thing to talk about. And so something I'm choosing to talk about. And I think timing coupled with a goal and intention is always important, right? And then respecting the timing. And so there's a chapter of that in that book. And like, what does my timing look like? I don't know. Most of the time I learn about it in hindsight. I can't say I do things and think, oh, this is going to work out, or, oh, because you don't know. And once, like I always say, like, once you think you have it figured out, you probably don't. And that's what's horrifying and very disappointing for all of us? So what I had to do, like I said, like publishing my book last year, like I thought that was the time I was pumped and it wasn't. And I was like, "Oh, well, okay." And so it's interesting because it gave opportunity for feedback, right? Which do we love that? I don't know, which reps right back into that vulnerability piece. Um, and so the book's called It's Not That Deep, and it's talking about navigating emotional intelligence, right? And navigating leadership with emotional intelligence. And I think frequently we spend a lot of time talking about what emotional intelligence is, but we never talk about what to do with it. Like we could probably talk till we're blue in the face about, oh, I have all these feelings and where do they belong and what's going on, but like what are the strategies? And so the reason I mention that is there's timing is everything is a chapter, and using the timing to direct your energy. Don't get defeated, redirect. And
Mm.
so, and I mentioned that because I wrote It's Not That Deep, felt really proud about it, got it out there. And then when some of my friends were like, this is really great, but like, you're deep. And I was like, they're like, so this makes no sense. And I was like, yeah, but that's the point, right? Like it's an oxymoron on purpose. Like you only get to say it's not that deep after you've been through it, right? That's the only time this makes sense. And so then sparked the inspiration for my next book, which, oh, hey guys, here's a secret book. No, it's called In Too Deep. And it's talking about like, how do we get here and where, like, what do we get lost in the sauce about? And so if I hadn't released that book, I wouldn't have had people ask me the question, and I wouldn't have been inspired to write a second book. When I published the first book, I was like, one and done. I did it, right? And now I'm like, oh, I guess I'm writing another book because, well, life, right? And so what I'm really loving about it now is it's really challenging me in my leadership, whether it be at my personal job, in my entrepreneurship, in my whatever, to really embrace vulnerability. I come across as a very extroverted, bubbly person, but I would say I tend to be more introverted and don't trust very easily. And
Mm.
so I kind of went after vulnerability, like I need to talk about this because if I'm feeling this much resistance, there's probably something there that other people are feeling too. And so instead of talking about how hard it is, I want to talk about it as how do we use it to level up? How do we use it to build stronger connections? And how do we use it not to only level ourselves up, but help others along the way?
Oh man, yeah. And like you've got so much going on. So like how do you juggle the ideas of creating the new book and working that out, and how do you like yeah, how do you stay focused on all of this stuff and being able to continue moving forward and showing up every day for your job and everything else at the same time?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sometimes I don't know. Some days I'm like, I'm freaking nuts. Like, why do I do all of this? I think we all hit that spot too, where we're like, okay, why am I doing this? And I think it took a lot of coming to the terms of who I am and really knowing who am I and what do I want and what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. And once I identified what my weaknesses are, or not even weaknesses, maybe just things you don't want to do. Like I was notorious for forcing myself to do things I didn't want to do for the sake of probably people pleasing. I don't know, probably proving something to myself that didn't matter anyway. So I just had to, and I still struggle with that if I'm honest. But it came to who am I? What do I want? And it's very simple, not easy. It's very simple
Yeah.
to say it, but like to do that work, I mean, I don't know if the strategy of moving across the country by yourself's the best opportunity for that, but I did it and it did work. It was really rough though, if I won't lie. But I think really confronting those hard truths about myself and knowing who I wanted to be, because once I figured that out, I could decide where I wanted to put my energy. Because I think you'll read a bunch of leadership books about time management and this, that, and the other. Like, what does that mean though? And it's like, is it good time management if you're doing things you hate? Like, why are we doing that? Like, is that time management? Do I love every part of my job and everything I do every day? No. But do I try to balance it with things that I love and bigger goals and be very intentional with the things I'm doing to relate to those bigger goals? Yes. So, time management isn't just blocking your calendar. Time management is being really intentional with who you are and where you want to go, and then choosing things that relate to those things so it doesn't feel like work. I will admit, and my mom tells me all the time, I'm probably a different caliber and run way too fast and probably more fast than most people, and it can get me in trouble. I would agree. But I also think it can look like different things for different people. And that sounds so wishy-washy, but, like, if there was a playbook for life, don't you think somebody would have it by now? Like, nobody has this figured out, so just do what works for you. And how do you know if it's working? Time. Mm, and that stinks, but I think at the same time, surrounding yourself with really strong people that can give you really honest feedback that understand your intention. There's nothing worse than someone giving you feedback that doesn't know who you are, and it really can confuse you, you know?
Yeah, and people give a lot of people love to give feedback and they don't necessarily give good feedback sometimes,
Right.
so that can be challenging too, at like a whole nother level to it. Um, but so when I'm listening to you here, hearing like this through line of awareness and reflection. And you said it that yourself, like I know it too because I've gone through a lot of like self work on myself, digging deeper, self discovery, and kind of asking those harder questions. And it is really uncomfortable. Maybe to the I never moved across country, so maybe it is similar to that. But like, how do you get into that? If someone's listening to this and they're like, you know what? Yeah, maybe I do need to kind of dial in a little bit, but they're a little afraid of the vulnerability aspect, or maybe they're afraid of who they actually are if they dig in deep into it. So, do you have any advice on maybe like getting started on that self journey of figuring out more about yourself?
Yeah, I think you hear this all the time, but let me give the why behind it. Journaling and not journaling every day. Like, I think everyone's like, we have to journal every single day, all the time. You know, journaling can look like thoughts in your notes. Journaling can look like a couple bullet points. Journaling can be once a week. Journaling can be once a month. Journaling can be once a year, right? But I think having that record to look back on has been something super beneficial to me. Of it's very centering because your world is constantly evolving, and as soon as you figure yourself out, you're going to change. And that's kind of the funny part about that, right? So I think getting really comfortable with change. So what I'm hearing is, and maybe I'm misinterpreting, change is uncomfortable, correct? But you're already doing it. So I would say do it intentionally. And it doesn't have to be moving across the country. If it is, more power to you. But it could be a solo camping trip. It could be a solo travel trip. It could be just traveling in general. I can't recommend enough getting outside of your comfort zone and doing something you wouldn't do before, and that's gonna look a lot of different very different for a lot of people. And it could be, you go into the next town over and staying the night. Like, it doesn't have to be outrageous, it has to just be intentional and you knowing why you're doing it. I mean, you have some friends, make a new friend, get their perspective. You have an estranged aunt that lives in Kansas, go visit her and learn about her life. Like, whatever that is, I think it's just getting out of your own head and understanding you probably don't have it figured out. And if you're feeling defeated, be thankful you don't have it figured out because then there's more opportunity to go figure it out. And that's what I would recommend. I don't know. At the time I was at in Montana, like I was probably at the lowest low of my life, if I'm honest. And that was the only, it didn't feel like a relief. It felt like an escape. Like it felt like something I had to do because if I stayed where I was at, I wasn't going to do so well. And so I would recommend not getting to that point because that's a really hard reality to face. But if that is you and you are there, don't be afraid to change scenery because you'd be surprised at how much that can offer you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some powerful stuff. I fully believe that we enjoy the celebration and the excitement that goes through when we are celebrating and such, but really growth comes from the challenge, not the celebration. And you take on the challenge by doing things that are a little uncomfortable. And it doesn't need to, like you said, it doesn't need to be super crazy, but something that pushes you a bit.
Yep.
With a lot of my clients, I don't know if you've ever done like cold plunges and cold showers. That's an easy thing that I think of. That's like, yeah, that's uncomfortable, but like it's also not going to kill me. I don't have to do it forever, but it introduces some discomfort into my life. And then I feel like the more that you take on those uncomfortable challenges, the more resilient you become. And that gives you the room to then be able to kind of reflect and then journal and strategies like that. So I love it too because I'm a big fan of journaling. I think it's great. It helps me kind of slow down my thought process because I feel like my brain goes a lot faster than I can talk and think. And that allows me to kind of slow down and then helps me reflect because it gives me the ability to look at the perspective that I was looking at in that time period. So I love those pieces of advice you just shared about moving and
Yeah.
challenging yourself in the journaling as well. Powerful stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's cool too because I think we're also scared of the challenge that's coming or confrontation, but something I really realized is those are just opportunities to really show your core and figure out who you are. And so if you are in a very comfortable space that isn't challenging you, figure out how you're going to challenge yourself. That could be going to the gym once a day. That could be meeting a new friend. It could be going to a happy hour that you would never freaking dream of going to, whatever that is, and then reflect on what that did for you. And I think small steps are probably better. I also caution because you have to. I am extreme, and I was in a very survival mode for a really long time. It took me a long time to regulate myself and be like, "Okay, we don't need to run all the time, all directions, like, this is chaotic," and it could come across that way if you didn't know me, right? And so, I think do all the things, be diverse, live life to the fullest, just be intentional and have a direction.
Yo, what's up? Sorry for interrupting. It's me, Rob. If you've been listening and thinking, man, I just know I'm capable of so much more, but something's just really not clicking, well, I've got something for you. It's called the Prime Performance Personality Quiz. And in just a few minutes, you'll uncover what's actually slowing you down. So, whether it's a mindset block, energy drain, or a lack of clarity, this quiz is going to give you specific insights to help you build momentum again. Again, this quiz is free, fast, and honestly, freakishly accurate. So take it now over at survivingthesidehustle.com/quiz and stop spinning, start winning today. Yeah, I love that. And I don't know I don't know where I picked it up, but I heard it somewhere along the line that um, I guess the emotion or maybe the sensation of excitement and nervousness is essentially the same thing, and it's just how you interpret the situation and where you're at. And for some reason, that's kind of stuck with me, whether it's true or not. And that led me to kind of diving into the world of speaking and becoming a speaker. And I remember my first like paid speaking gig was very, very low, and essentially I lost money on the opportunity because of like gas miles and travel time and such. But I
Oh,
was so nervous and excited, and that just being able to reflect on that and how much it helped me grow and move and change. And now when I speak on stage in front of like hundreds of people, it's really exciting for me. And I know to myself, I'm like, okay, this is another chance for me to get in front of new audience, new people, and share my story and challenge myself. And unless I don't like, if I don't reflect on it later, I feel like it's almost like wasted. So I love that whole idea for reflecting back on the challenge and such.
definitely. Yeah, you don't wanna just, like, torture yourself without any recollection of it, right? Like, nobody wants to be uncomfortable. So, if you're gonna do it intentionally and, like, let's not get weird here, you know? And I think that's kinda part of it too. Something I have to do, I always say gas and brakes, and I have a lot of people in my life that are brakes because I am just all gas all the time. But directing it and driving it in, like, one direction is very helpful. And like I said, and this book might relate to people that aren't all gas, right? You might be brakes, and that's probably out of fear. And if it's fear, I mean, what's the worst thing's gonna happen? You're gonna fail, you're gonna learn from it, and you're gonna try again, you know? And I think when you get to that right reality of, like, the worst thing that happens is I learned something from this. And, like, that's not a loss at all, you know? And I'm in a season of life where I'm learning to pause and really observe and use the skills I've developed to kind of understand my environment and give time for other people to show up, and show me other things that I might not know. And so, maybe you're more of a reticent person and you're more of an introvert that has had that time and has that experience. You probably have a lot to offer. I obviously come across super bubbly and extroverted and I'm all out here, but that's not my natural tendency. You're not going to catch me wanting to run to the bars and go do happy hours or do marketing. I do it because it's needed. I don't do it because I love to do it. And so this is a learned skill that I've come to love because I feel like it's offering me an inspiration. So that thing that you're scared of is probably more of an opportunity and it might cause like that similar confusion that you're talking about. The things I've been the most scared of have been the things that have benefited me the most. And I think that's kind of a crazy lesson to learn and even surreal to say that right now because there's a lot of things. I'm not a very fearful person, but I'm not a very trusting person. And sometimes the two can be confusing, you know? And so if it's the trust that you're fearing, dive into vulnerability. And you don't have to be vulnerable with 110 people, just be vulnerable with yourself, you know? And I talk a lot about like the spectrum of transparency versus vulnerability. And I think it's important once you know who you are. I talked about my core earlier. You can show people who you are. You have nothing to be ashamed of, you know? And when you start showing people who you are, it opens doors naturally, and that energy goes in a really positive direction because instead of being stuck in your head, you're able to put the energy where it should belong, which is outside of you, and, I think that's really beautiful, right? And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, like, really intimate, emotional conversation. It can just be, "This is what I love, this is what I do," just like we're talking now. I mean, it could be vulnerable. I think this is probably more on the side of vulnerable, but with practice, it becomes less, right? And, you build more trust. Trust and it doesn't have to be trust with other people, it can be trusting yourself, which is probably the hardest part, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I feel like, and to bring it back to the whole leadership idea, I feel like if you don't trust yourself and it's going to make it very difficult for other people to trust you. And if you're trying to become a better leader, you're only going to be able to go so far, right? If
Yeah.
others can't trust in you, right?
100%, exactly. I mean, if you don't know where you're going, how are they gonna know where you're going, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No one's gonna wanna follow you if you don't know where you're going and where
Mhm.
everybody's trying to get to. But I would love to bring it back to the book. So you said your first book took you, like, what'd you say, 5 months to knock out?
Yeah, but I didn't release
That's
it right off the bat. I did proofread it, okay?
uh,
But yeah, about 5 months, I think, and released so I started writing it in February, published it in September. So, yeah,
wow.
I guess really did just whip that sucker out, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Um,
pretty awesome.
yeah, it was awesome. It's cool when you read the book, you know, it's technically self-help, right, is what you'd call it, but it's interesting. It's kind of a niche, and I'm not saying it's the first book of its kind because it's definitely not, but some authors I really love, like Brianna West, that the book 101 Essays, like, totally inspired me in a lot of ways and while I was writing, but before that, um, I would say the book's kind of a combination of, like, that poetic, really getting deep in your feelings, but also giving you strategies to move out of it instead of staying in it, and so that's what, like, I wanted to do is, like, kinda talk about my lessons I'd learned through all these crazy scenarios that not a lot of people get to experience before they turn 30, right? And
Mhm,
so it's just each chapter of some of the battles I've faced personally and professionally and what I've done that's helped me. I think part of that strategy base is just because of my background as a therapist, I can't help myself. But I feel like we talk about emotional intelligence a lot. We need to figure out strategies how to use it to level
mhm.
up.
And so speaking of the book some more,
Mhm.
who's the perfect reader for your book?
Yeah. I think it's someone we've kind of talked about them a lot. You could be a lot of people, but it's not just for the people seeking professional development. It generalizes to personal development as well. But if you're feeling comfortable and uninspired, right? If you're sitting there and you're like, gosh, I just don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. I've lost myself. I've lost my identity. I'm at work and people say I'm too much and I'm trying to connect and I'm oversharing. People don't know what's going on, or I'm so focused on the end goal, I don't know who I am anymore. Imposter syndrome, like check the boxes, right? Living in hindsight. Anybody that's not focused forward and is feeling like they're circling the drain a bit. And I feel like that's kind of a
Mm,
harsh way to say it, but that's how I feel like that's how I felt. Where I was like, I just keep feeling like I'm running this right race that has no end, you know? And so that's where, like I said, I wrote the book because I wanted you to give yourself permission to not have to do that. In the book, we talk about it's called a roller coaster, you know, and you get on the roller coaster and it has its high highs and its low lows, and every time you get on, you're loving it, but after a while, you're like, I think I'm gonna puke. Like you can get off the roller coaster, you can get off the roller coaster and watch it from the sidelines, like, and knowing when that fits your life. So those are the kind of people that I think would really love the book. It's a short read, it's an easy read. It's not It's very metaphorical. It's very like, I love to speak in metaphors because I feel like it just gives you that visual and that feeling.
Yeah.
And someone that is maybe not an avid reader, you'd still love it because it's quick, and it just gives you a lot of food for thought. And if you wanna start journaling, this is probably a great book for you because it's gonna give you some strategies to start. Or if you're really thick and you're into journaling and you feel like you're stuck, probably gonna give you some good perspective. Maybe the people that don't have a network to gain perspective from, this book would be good for you too.
Wow. So you've got a lot of different stories. So it's basically a compilation of a lot of different stories or chapters of your life. And you also have exercises to kind of run people through to help develop more awareness for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah,
Powerful.
so, like yeah, it's pretty cool, actually. The more I took a break from reading it because I don't know, it's like when you do something yourself, yeah, you're a little bit more critical, right? And so when I read it again, yeah, it just talks about I think really all I'm doing is identifying it with language that makes sense to people that are probably in their early professional years. I wouldn't say anything I'm saying isn't something that somebody hasn't said before. I think I'm just labeling it with language in a way that makes sense, that feels relatable so that you're not feeling like it's a dry read. You're like, "I just wanna get to the good part," you know? No, I think, like 'cause I have books like that where I'm like, "I just need to get to the end because 'cause I've already started the book." So my goal is for it to feel like that more like, if you read the poetry books, um, they're very, like, poetic, and they really pull you in with that visual, and, like, I loved that. So that was my goal. I was like, "How can I couple that emotion that I feel when I listen to Bon Iver and Hazlitt and put it in a book, but then let's not stay there. Let's, like, move on and talk about where we're going," which inspired the series. So,
Oh man, awesome. I'm excited to check it out myself. And for those listening, if they're interested in checking it out, where do they go? How do they get the book?
totally. It's on Amazon. Just search It's Not That Deep, probably the easiest. I can give you the link as well. We can put it on here. It's a really long link, so, just remember It's Not That Deep or my name, Emily Erstad. If you put that in the search bar, it'll pull up. And I hope you guys love it and read it. I love to connect. So if you guys do at the end of the book, there's 2 ways to connect with me. If you read it, I love to hear how people either connected or didn't or had a different experience. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Cool. Sweet. So just quick, easy search on Amazon. It's not that deep. Should be pretty simple to get to. And if not, how do people stay in touch with you if they're like interested in hearing about when the next book come out or what else you've got going on in life?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a website, so I'll put the link in there. It's currently getting redone, so look now because 'cause it'll change in 2 weeks. The domain should be eepublicationsllc.com, but I'll have him put the link in the bio as well, and then I do have an Instagram, we'll put the link in the bio. It's at it's not that deep _author. Feel free to reach out. I'm not gonna lie, I've been a little lazy on there lately, but I have a link tree. You'll know where I'm at there. I've just been deep in thought. No pun intended. So, just writing another book, so that's where my energy's going, but yeah.
Love it. Well, Emily, thank you so much. I know it's a crazy schedule. It's tough to always get time to hop on and share, but I appreciate you sharing your experiences and your insights. And really excited for everybody to listen to this episode and listen back again and grab a couple copies of your book as well. And looking forward to the new one when it comes out, which will probably happen in like a week, I guess. But the,
Maybe 2.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Of course, but Emily, I'm sorry, but before I let you roll, I've got to ask
Sure.
you if you were to boil everything down from the different experiences that you've learned, the different life lessons and whatnot, and you were to package it up into one piece of advice to kind of share with the younger version of yourself, what would that piece of
Mm.
advice be?
For myself, uh, do it if it makes you happy, it's worth it. If it makes you happy and you're inspired, it's worth your time. Do it for you. Don't do it for everyone else. Because if you're empty and you're uninspired, nobody else around you is gonna be inspired either. Uh, so I think that's a really nice way to tell myself to stop people pleasing. But
I
yeah,
love that. I
yeah.
love that. I wish I would have heard that for my younger self as well. It's a powerful lesson to learn to lean into yourself and make sure that you're doing the things that do make you happy. I feel like we're in a world nowadays where there's not enough happiness and people are constantly feeling like they're just people pleasing. So I love that piece of advice. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for hopping on today. I really do appreciate it. And this is a powerful episode. I'm excited.
Nice to be here.
that's it for this episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. If you found this valuable, the best way to support the show is to rate and review on Apple or Spotify. It helps get the show in front of more driven individuals just like you, and helps them discover the tools to get unstuck, break through burnout, and build something real. And you can always connect deeper with me, our guests, or grab free resources at survivingthesidehustle.com/Rob. Whether it's a strategy call, the Prime Performance Personality Quiz, some of our products, or just to check out our free content library, connect with us over at survivingthesidehustle.com/Rob. And hey, remember this, you weren't meant to just grind. You were built to grow. So stay conscious, stay committed, and keep showing up. Peace, guys.